All right, I'm going to start with the nervous system and move into muscle contraction. I want to do some endocrine, and I'll finish up with a little bit on the immune system. But again, I'll be covering that tomorrow, so you should be in good shape. So be ready for some hundreds next week. Yeah? All right. All right, so if this, again, I'll start out with a bit of a, it takes me a little while to get going, so I do this deliberately to get going. But what I like to do is, in terms of helping you to sort of, what do I need to study? What do I need to focus on? And then, once we're done with that, essentially the purpose of the review, I would also hope that you have a better idea of how deep you need to go. So let me give you an example, and I think this is a good place to start. All right. For example, if I were to ask you, I'm going to throw this out. If I were to say, all right, to such and such, how do you generate an action potential? Now, someone might say, well, you primarily, the first and probably foremost, most important thing you need to do is to depolarize the region of a axon's membrane. And I might stop you right there and say, oh, that's very good, that's good, you got it, that's good. All right. And then you'd be like really happy. I got it, I'm on my way. But then I ask you the next question. The next question is, why do we have to depolarize a nerve cell? And every time I ask that question, on an exam, okay, people are like, no. Exactly. You see what I mean? You don't know, because you haven't gone deep enough. Ask those common sense questions. It isn't enough to just say, to generate an action potential, we need to depolarize the nerve cell. But guys, think about it for 1 minute. And then you might have gone and said, oh, no, doctor, I know it all. I know it all. Please, give me a chance. Give me a chance. Okay, I'll give you a chance. See, I know. Then it has to repolarize. All right? And then it may end up hyperpolarizing. See, I know it, right? And I'll go, okay, we're looking pretty good. And then there's a slight adjustment, some rebound effect, all right, the overshoot, and then the rebound. And then it reaches its original threshold. Okay. But see, here's the same problem. Why does it have to repolarize? So as you're studying, guys, you need to ask those kinds of questions too. All right, not just that the depolarization initiates or induces an action potential. All right. The depolarization induces an action potential only when that depolarization is of magnitude enough to reach the what? The threshold. Okay? So that's very important to understand. And of course, that's going to have a lot to do with inhibitory and excitatory molecules that are present at the synapse originally. Okay? But the reason why you have to depolarize is because the nerve cell at resting potential, all right, is polarized, isn't it? In other words, that's what a potential means, a capacitance. You have more on one side than the other. It's polarized in its, quote, resting state before being activated. So if you want to activate a nerve cell and it's already polarized, then you're going to have to what? Depolarize it. See? That's how you try to come to understand this material. Now that makes sense. Okay, I get it now. The cell has set up this polarization, this potential at rest. If I want to get it to wake up, I got to activate it. Well, you can't activate it by repolarizing it. It already is polarized. So you got to depolarize it, which then, all right, you see where I'm going? So you really got to, it's almost like, I don't know, you just got to become one with it. I don't know. You have to think about what you're doing. If and I think that's what I mean. You remember when I started the lecture on the nervous system, I didn't start with all the sympathetic, parasympathetic, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to, no. point. What did I start with? I started with a simple term, resting potential. And what did I say? If you don't get this, you really don't get any of it. And that's still true. All right? Because that's the beauty of a nerve cell. It creates this resting potential. And in order for you to get it to generate an electric current, you have to move charges. You have to depolarize. All right? And so, I don't know if that's helpful or not. I never really know. But it helps me. I know that much. And so hopefully it'll help you as well. But as you're moving through these chapters and you're looking at this material, you're reviewing, which I know you're going to do, you know, just periodically stop. You know, for example, the pituitary gland, which we'll get to in a few minutes. At some point, you're going to memorize that there's a posterior region and there's an anterior region. You're probably going to memorize things like neurosecretory cells, and yes, you have to do that as the language. We have to speak the same language. I get that. But periodically stop and just ask yourself, why does the pituitary have two regions? Why doesn't it just have one? You see what I mean? And in so doing, then you start to realize, your brain starts to be accountable. It starts to go, oh yeah, there are two regions. Yeah, what is the difference between these two regions? Why do we have two regions? Is there any reason, would one region be okay? Why do we have two? You see? So, I don't know if it's helpful, but again, I think it can be. But you have to sort of embrace that sort of, I don't know what you call it, ideology, I don't know, strategy. You know, just periodically ask yourself, just stop for a minute and say, what am I doing? You know, in other words, you're memorizing this, and a little innocent question on the exam is A, B, C. Why do we have to depolarize a nerve cell? A, B, C. See what I mean? So try to sort of do that. And I'll do that periodically tonight, and maybe, we can sort of reinforce the idea. Okay, so what do we need to know about this particular chapter? Well, certainly, all right, we're going to generate an action potential. You know I'm going to have a number of questions on the final on that. And by the way, if you haven't looked at your syllabus yet, because I'm getting these emails which suggest that some have not, all right, your final is how many minutes long? 50, just like